ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। वंदेहम श्री गुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलम श्री गुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथं वितं तां सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजना सहितं कृष्णा चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगना ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि श्री गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायण नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। न शृण्वतां स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्य श्रवण कीर्तनम हृदयन्तस्तु अभद्राणि विदुनोति सुहृत्सतां नष्ट sorry नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। सर्वशास्त्रादि पीयूष सर्ववैदिक सत्पर सर्वसिद्धांत रत्नाद्य सर्वलोकैक दृक्प्रद सर्वभागवत प्राण श्रीमद्भागवतो प्रभु कलिदन्तोतितादित्य श्रीकृष्ण परिवर्तिता परमानंद पाथाय प्रेम वर्ष अक्षराय ते सर्वद सर्वसेवाय श्रीकृष्णाय नमोस्तुते। मद एक बंधु मद संगीन मद गुरुन् मद महादन मद निस्तारक मन भाग्य मद आनंद नमोस्तुते। असाधु साधु तादाइन अति नीचों च ताकर हाना मुंचा कदाचिन माम प्रेम न हृत कंथयो स्पुरः। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। हरे कृष्ण। Thank you all so much for joining. Nice to see all of you on this Sunday morning. And yeah, we don't even realize how time works. We read about time in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and somehow like we lost 1 hour in the night. We don't even realize we are back to our schedule, everything back, and yeah, we missed 1 hour of sleep, but everything's back on. That's how time works, right? Okay, so let's get started. We are in the 8th chapter of the 3rd canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the chapter title Manifestation of Brahma from Garbhodakshay Vishnu. Okay, so just we came up to I think verse number 6. I think yeah, we read on to 5 or 6, right? So let's quickly review the first 5 verses, and we'll continue with this chapter. So this chapter basically we read about how um, like the first verse of this chapter, which is a very beautiful verse. In the previous chapter, what did we read? That Vidura has actually made the point to Maitreya Rishi that he's actually said that only by serving you, or Maitreya Rishi, can all the knowledge that you have actually given me be converted to realization, right? So our formula is service converts knowledge to realization, right? Service converts knowledge to realization. So he made that point, and he also said that it's by serving devotees like you, oh Maitreya Rishi, can one actually experience transcendental ecstasy, and then all one's material distress will be washed away, right? And he talks about durapa hi alpatapasa seva vaikuntha vartmasu, right? What is vaikuntha vartmasu? Those are on the path back home, back to God, back to Vaikuntha. And what does it say? Durapa hi alpa tapasa. It is so rare to obtain that service of devotees who are on the path back home, back to Godhead. So one way is saying, oh, Maitreya Rishi, it is so rare to find devotees of your caliber to whom we can actually offer service. Such is the glories of service to these exalted devotees, right? And after all these points from the previous chapter, this chapter starts off by Maitreya Rishi actually saying, actually, you are such an exalted personality. You are such a glorious devotee that I actually want to serve you. Right? So this first verse actually starts off, this chapter starts off by Maitreya Rishi actually glorifying and saying, but oh, certainly, you are such a great devotee. Why? Because you are Yamraj himself. And Yamraj wanted a break. He was getting too tired, telling people, oh, go to hell, go to this place, go to this place. I need a break, right? We all need a break sometimes. We need a vacation. And Yamraj actually said, let me take a vacation. And then he comes down to the earth and he actually looks for the opportunity to glorify Supreme Personality of Godhead, to have the association of his worshipable Ishtadev, Lord Shri Krishna himself. So Yamraj himself has come down. So Maitreya Rishi knows this and saying, Vidura, you are one of the 12 Mahajans. You are Yamraj himself. You have come down just to speak and hear Hari Katha. This is your glories. And I am so fortunate that I am actually getting your association here. Right? And then he also uses word like Bhagavad Pradanaha. You're in the Puru Vamsa. You're born in the family of Purus, where everyone is actually engaged in what? Bhagavad Pradana, glorifying that supreme personality of Godhead. And then we read that beautiful poetic expression where Maitreya Rishi actually says that you are the one who is creating the garland of uh, Kirti Mala, right? Kirti means glorification and Mala means garland. You are creating the garland of the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what is the thread? Anyone remembers? So garland, we have flowers and we have a thread, right? And Maitreya Rishi is saying, oh, Vidura, you are the one who is the garland maker. You are Kirti Mala, right? You are creating the Kirti Mala. What is the thread?
Krishna Katha is the thread.
What
Taste of Krishna Katha is the thread.
So he's actually saying, Vidura, you have so much taste to hear Hari Katha. And that taste is actually the thread. And each flower, Maitreya Rishi is yes speaking. He's actually giving all the flowers. But Vidura, it is you who's taking all these flowers and making a beautiful garland to offer at the lotus feet of Krishna. Right? So Kirti Mala, you are the one. So it's so nice this mood between Vaishnavas that though Maitreya Rishi is a speaker and Vidura is just making, questions here and there and getting clarification, but Maitreya Rishi is glorifying. Oh, Vidura, you are actually all credits to you. And I am so fortunate to have your association. And I am so pleased to serve you, and that is my great fortune. Right. So that is the mood between Vaishnavas, that even the speaker of the Bhagavatam, speaker of Bhagavad Katha throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, they have that mood to the listeners that, oh, these listeners are so glorious because they are giving me an opportunity to speak Hari Katha. They are churning all the nectar and bringing out those words through me, using me as an instrument. Right. So that's the mood of Vaishnava etiquette, right? And throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, we hear about whenever there is speaker and listener, first of all, they glorify each other. Right? There's glorification of the speaker, glorification of the listener. Right? Then after this, then next verse, the second verse of this verse, is a very nice verse. This word, Soham Nrinam Shula Sukhaya Dukham Mahat. So we said, just remember this. So hum, right? So all Rinam referring to all human society. What are they experiencing? Shulla Sukhaya. But how is the Dukham? Mahat, right? So this is actually answering Vidura's question earlier, that he actually asked this question, Maitreya Rishi, everyone I see in this world, they are actually engaged in fruitive activities to get happiness, but they actually just get more and more frustrated, more and more distressed. So what is the solution? Why? How can people get out of the cycle of fruitive activities? Right? And here Maitreya Rishi is actually giving the answer. So Vidura in 352, he actually said, Sukhaya karmani karoti loko. Sukhaya, right? So he starts off the verse with Sukhaya, and here in 382 also we see the word Sukhaya. So he says, Sukhaya karmani. Everyone in this world is engaging in fruitive activities to attain sukha, happiness, right? But one finds neither na tai sukham, he doesn't find happiness, nor there is mitigation of distress, dukkha, eva dukkham. He doesn't find mitigation of distress, nor there is happiness. On the contrary, one is only aggravated by such activities. Please, therefore, tell us, how can one attain real happiness? Do you remember any other question where we actually hear, how can one really get happy? Yeah. Okay. I was just connecting this to our main question that Parikshit Maharaj has asked Sukadev Goswami, that what is the ultimate good for all people, right? Particularly who are going to die. Like that's how the entire Srimad Bhagavatam starts. And we talk of the ultimate good for all people. We see in the Nectar of Devotion, the first chapter, that Rupa Goswami is making the point that what is the highest auspiciousness? Right? He talks of devotional service as the one which is the most auspicious. And how do you define auspicious? And he says one of the qualities of auspiciousness is that it gives happiness to everyone. Right? So indirectly, Parikshit Maharaj did ask, what is the ultimate? How can people really be happy in this world? Right? And so we see throughout uh, Bhagavatam, that point about happiness is there. Like, how do we really get happy? And Vidura has asked the same question. And now Maitreya is saying, Soham Rinam Shulla Sukhaya. Just little bit happiness, but Dukham is Mahat. Right? That is the situation of this right world. And then what is the answer to this? Mahadgatanam Viramaya Tasya Pravartaye Bhagavatam Puranam Yad Aha Shakshat Bhagwan Rishi Bihi. So, what is the solution to really get happiness in this material world?
Here's Srimad Bhagavatam.
Here, Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Srimad Bhagavatam itself is a solution, or say himself. Srimad Bhagavatam himself is a solution, right? Or reading Srimad Bhagavatam is the solution, right? So, this Bhagavatam itself, so himself, here, so Maitreya Rishi is actually making the point, Pravartaye Bhagavatam Puranam. So, this Bhagavata Purana, this itself, himself will actually give happiness to all living entities. Bhagavatam has all the solutions how to give up all distress and become the most happiest person. And by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, one can actually attain all the amrita that one is actually looking for, that nectar that one is looking for. So, okay. And then the next few verses from text 3 all the way to text 9, he's talking of one parampara that this Bhagavatam is spoken. Right. So what was in the previous verse, previous canto, we read about one parampara. What was that parampara? When did we hear Bhagavatam? Oh, now Bhagavatam is going to be spoken, and then
Brahma from
yes,
Brahma.
right. So Brahma was bewildered, and then what? Chatushloki Bhagavatam we read, right? So that is the seed verses from which the entire knowledge of Bhagavatam comes. So one parampara is Krishna giving knowledge directly to Brahma, and we belong to the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. Right? So we read of the conversation between Krishna giving knowledge to Brahma, and then we also read about Vyasadeva receiving knowledge from Narad Muni. right? So this is all in our parampara. Now we are reading of another parampara, right? And the interesting point to note that even though this is a different parampara, we have four authorized paramparas, right? Even though this is a different parampara, the knowledge is the same, right? It is not that, oh, you're in Sri Sampradaya. Hence, no, the knowledge is the same. Just through the medium is actually changing. The devotees through which the knowledge is coming, that is changing. But the knowledge is exactly the same. That's what we'll see further as this chapter proceeds. Okay. Okay. So text, this is read the English translations for text 3 onwards. And let's see.
Hare Krishna. Some time ago, being inquisitive to know, Sanat Kumar, the chief of the boy saints, accompanied by other great sages, inquired exactly like you about the truths regarding Vasudev, the supreme from Lord Sankarsana, who is seated at the bottom of the universe. Hare Krishna.
So here he's saying that Sanat Kumar, who is the chief of all the saints, right? So he, one of the four Kumaras, he has actually inquired just like Vidura, you have inquired. So in the previous chapter, what did we read? Chapter 7. So many questions Vidura had, right? And after the whole thing, after the whole list of questions, he said, whatever I've forgotten to ask, that also you answer, right? So unlimited questions, right? That's Vidura's inquisitiveness to know. And here he's saying, similarly, Sanat Kumar, he actually asked Sankarshan. And what did he ask? He asked truths about Vasudeva. Right? So he's asking Sankarshan, who is an expansion or avatar of Vasudev, about Vasudev. Right? So he's actually approached Sankarshan. And where is Sankarshan? He's at the bottom of the universe. So in fifth canto, when we come to that, we'll read how Sankarshan, he actually, all the entire universe floats or is on the tip of the hood of Sankarshan. Right? So of Anantashesh, who on whose bed Sankarshan is lying. That is technically correct. Right? So Sankarshan is lying on the bed of Anantashesh, and on the hood of Anantashesh, the entire universe rests. Right? So, so Sankarshan is seated at the bottom of the universe. Okay, text 4.
Hare Krishna. At that time, Lord Sankarsana was meditating upon his Supreme Lord, whom the learned esteem as Lord Vasudeva, but for the sake of the advancement of the great learned sages, he slightly opened his lotus-like eyes and began to speak. Hare
So Sankarshan is meditating upon whom? He's actually meditating on, here particularly the word is Swam Dishnyam. Swam Dishnyam means his shelter. Who is the shelter of Sankarshan? Vasudev. So he's meditating on Vasudev, and here it says Manayantam. He's meditating on that personality who the Bahu, the great sages actually call Vasudev. So that by the name Abhidham, by the name Vasudev. And then Pritak Drita Aksha. So what is his eyes? His eyes are focused inward because he's focused on the meditation, on the beautiful form of Vasudev. But then he actually opens his eyes. So from inward to outward, right? Why? Because there's a question and there's an opportunity to speak Harikatha. He wants to enlighten the sages. Just for the sake of enlightening, he actually slightly opened his eyes. Text 5.
Hare Krishna. The sages came from the highest planets to highest planets down to the lower region through the water of Ganges, and therefore the air on their heads was wet. They touched the lotus feet of the Lord, which are worshipped with various paraphernalia by the daughters of the serpent king when they desire good husbands. Hare Krishna.
So Sanat Kumar, along with the sages, how did they come? Frontier Airlines. They actually travel through the Ganges, right? So the Ganges is, Prabhupada makes the point, the Ganges is one celestial river that flows from the highest planetary system down to the lowest, right? And later on in the further cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, we'll read the entire story of how Mother Ganga descends and how Bhagirathi actually invites Mother Ganga to actually come to the earthly planet, right? And then Vamandev's story, how he expands and he actually creates a crack in the universe and celestial Ganges enter. So all that we'll read. But here it is made that the Ganges is the medium through which the sages have traveled from the higher planetary system all the way to the bottom of the universe. Why? Because Sankarshan is right there. So they travel through the medium of the Ganges. Like even in Kumbh Mela, I don't know if I mentioned this last time. So in Kumbh Mela in like India, they have this Kumbh Mela, right? Kumbh Mela is said to be the largest gathering of people for any festival in the entire world. They say in Kumbh Mela, they have, I hope I'm saying the number right, but I think they have like around 300 million people come during the entire month to actually come to the place of Kumbh Mela. And everyone is like surprised that how can so many people come to this place, either that's Prayag or Nasik or Ujjain, like all these places, the four places, right? And they're always like, even the government officials like, how is it possible so many millions of people can come when even the train facilities is not possible for so many people come? And Prabhupada actually, when he went to Kumbh Mela, he made this point that actually people travel through the rivers. The mystic yogis, they will actually dip maybe in the Himalayas and then they'll come out in Prayagraj or Nasik, one of the, Prayagraj or something, right? So in Kumbh Mela, you can find all kinds of yogis, all kinds of yogis are there. They say, and the actual day when the Tithi is there, when the three rivers are meeting, that actual Tithi day, they say 30 million people take bath on that day. I hope I have the numbers right, but that's what I heard. I got it right. But so many people in Kumbh Mela, right? But how do people travel? There are so many mystic yogis, they can travel through the rivers. And here it is saying how Sanat Kumar and the sages, they travel through the Ganges from the higher planetary system all the way to the lowest. And now they have come in front of Sankarshan. And what is described? Their hairs are all wet. Why? Because they came through the Ganges, right? Their hairs are all wet, right? And then, so the significance of making the point that the hairs are all wet is that this is the water that has actually washed the lotus feet of Krishna, right? So Ganges itself is actually washing the feet of Krishna. It has washed the feet of Krishna and it has come. So when you actually, what is Charnamrit? Charnamrit is water that's washed the feet of the Lord. So they are actually so blessed that they have actually already been purified because their hair is washed with that Abhishek. They are so fortunate to receive that water onto their head. So Prabhupada in the purport points out that so fortunate to take bath in the Ganges. Right? Then once you take bath, then all our sinful reactions, everything is washed away because this is water from the lotus feet of from the Lord himself. How can any sinful reactions remain? But what is the problem? People come, they take bath in the Ganges, and then they go back and they continue committing sinful activity. Right? So just like how Prabhupada talks about atonement. He says like, every week they go, they atone, and next week they come back, they continue. What is the point? Once you get purified, now he says, okay, by some great fortune, I got to go to the Ganges and now I've taken a dip. Now I'm all purified. Now let me just focus on a pure life, cultivating Krishna consciousness and go back home, back to God. Right? So, okay. So they came there and then they touched the lotus feet of the Lord. Okay. Text 6.
Hare Krishna. The four Kumaras headed by Sanat Kumara, who all knew the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, glorified the Lord in rhythmic accents with selected words full of affection and love. At the time, Lord Sankarsana, with his thousands of raised hoods, began to radiate an effulgence from the glowing stones on his head.
Right. So maybe we can read the Sanskrit. I don't think we read the Sanskrit. Go ahead.
मुहुर्गृणन्तो वचसानुरागा स्खलात् पदेनास्य कृतानि तज्ज्ञा किरीटसहस्रमणि प्रवेका हृद्योदितो दामपनासहस्रम्.
So what does it say? Muhur, again and again, right? So what do devotees always do? Again and again, satatam kirtayantam, right? Always glorifying. So muhur, again and again, grinataha. Anyone remembers this word? Where did we read this word grinataha?
Grinanti yat gayanti. Something.
Shrimanti, Gayanti, Grinanti, Abhikshanaha. Doing these prayers, right? Grinanti, glorifying. So what are they doing? Again and again they are glorifying. And how are they glorifying? Anurag, right? Anurag, with great affection. When we glorify the Lord, we do it with our whole heart and bring out some sentiment, right? We bring out our love to the Lord. We express our love to the Lord. And here, through the glorification, they are actually expressing their anugrah, their great affection for the Lord, right? And then the word used is skalat padena, right? Skalat padena means with symmetric rhythm. So they're glorifying the Lord again and again, and they are doing it with great affection, and they are doing it in a perfect rhythm, right? And kritani, the activities and pastimes of the Lord. And here it says tadgyaha means they actually knew. If you have to glorify someone, that means you have to know about him, right? How can you glorify a person without knowing? So Prabhupada in the purport, he makes this point. He says, without the development of fine affection and love, one cannot offer prayers to the Lord very suitably. Right? So without that hearing and without developing that love and affection, how can one actually really offer the prayers? So Prabhupada makes one. And also he says, right. And then here it says, at the time, Kirita Sahasra. Kirita means helmets. So thousands of helmets, they were actually mani praveka, emanating from right. So thousands of helmets emanating from Udama Fana Sahasram. So thousands of raised heads. Right. So there's Ananta Shesh with thousands of hoods he has, and on each hood he has a helmet. So there's thousands of helmet, and they are mani praveka. They are glowing effulgence of valuable stones. Right. So that way they right. Yeah. So at the time, Sankarshan began to radiate this effulgence from the glowing stones on his head. Now, Prabhupada in the purport, he also says another beautiful sentence. A profusion of such selected words comes from a devotee who is fully absorbed in affection and love for the devotional service of the Lord. Right? Profusion of selected words. So he says Uttama Shloka. Uttama Shloka. Why is the Lord called Uttama Shloka? There are two meanings actually. We have discussed this. What is it?
He is glorified by great prayers.
The best of the words, right?
Best of them.
Uttama means the highest words is actually glorified to that. What's the other meaning of Uttama? What is Tama?
Ignorance.
Ignorance.
So he's actually glorified by words which are actually beyond Tama, which are actually the highest, right? Uttama, right? So profusion of such selected words comes from a devotee who's fully absorbed in affection and love. So by that complete absorption of a devotee, because he's so absorbed, when anyone comes and he gets an opportunity, what happens? A profusion. There's like a nectar of like the river Ganges, a nectar of a river of words flows from his mouth. Why? Because he's so absorbed. What is there within? It's just that love for Krishna. So if anyone comes in contact, then he speaks Harikatha, right? So, yeah. And then, that's why like one of the symptoms of bhav is actually described, that one of those symptoms is that the devotee is just always glorifying the Supreme Personality of God. Right? That's because that's what he's absorbed in. And that's why anyone speaks, those are the words that come out. Right? And then, okay. And then Prabhupada says that there are many instances in which even a small boy who was a great devotee could offer excellent prayers. So who is a small boy?
Dhruva.
Prahlad Maharaj.
Okay, Dhruva Maharaj,
Yeah.
Prahlad. Right? So it is so interesting in Srimad Bhagavatam. We see like even small boys, they are offering the prayers. Right? We actually see even demons are offering prayers. Right? Who are the demons offering prayers? Who is the demon in Srimad Bhagavatam who's offering prayers and which are such beautiful prayers that
Vitrasura?
Vritasura, okay? So if you see Bhagavatam, irrespective of what is one's position, one is a demon, one is a small boy, or wives of these Kaliya serpents, you see all these personalities. Because they have the devotion, the profusion of words, which is actually glorification. So here the sages are continuously growing. Muhur, again and again, they are glorifying, filled with anurag. Okay, text 7.
Proktam kilaitat bhagavatamena nivritti dharma bhiratayatena. Sanat Kumaraya Sachaha Prishta Sankhyaya Nayanga Drita Vrataya. Lord Sankarshan thus spoke the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam to the great sage Sanat Kumara, who had already taken the vow of renunciation. Sanat Kumara also, in his turn, when inquired of by Sankhya-yana Muni, explained Srimad Bhagavatam as he had heard it from Shankarshan.
So this is the way of parampara system, right? So that's what Prabhupada makes the point in purport. So what is it? Proktam kila etat, right? This certainly was spoken by Bhagavatamena, right? So we read previously how Sanat Kumar, he inquired just like how Vidura had inquired, and now Sankarshan is actually giving the answers. And then he says Sanat Kumaraya to Sanat Kumar and Nivritta Dharma Abhirataya. So it says Sanat Kumar, who was already fixed, who had already taken a religious vow of renunciation. Now, why is that quality mentioned? And then further it says, Sahacha a. He also said, when inquired, Prishtaha, to Sankhyayanaya. The grace says Sankhyayana, right? And who that also the word is what? Drita Vritaya, one who has taken such a vow. Right? So why there is emphasis? Like, okay, Sanat Kumar, he heard from Sankarshan. But then there is glorification of Sanat Kumar. Then Sanat Kumar, when he was Prishtaha, when he was asked, he told Sankhya Muni. And that also his glorification. Why? To actually point out that how is the parampara system established? That everyone in the parampara is actually qualified to be a recipient of the knowledge and also qualified to be a speaker of the knowledge. Right? And throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, we read whenever there is these pairs of the speaker and the hearer, there's always the glorification. What is the qualification? So even in our line, you see, starting from Srila Prabhupada all the way to Brahma, we see the entire list in the Bhagavad Gita, right? Narottam Das Thakur, we see Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Six Goswami. Any one of the acharyas you take, and you can actually speak volumes of glorification of each acharya, each personality in that. And that actually shows that how the parampara system is actually so bona fide, because everyone in the line has to play the role of being the link. That means he has to be qualified to be the true recipient of knowledge, and then he has to have the qualities to actually speak that knowledge. He has to be a true via medium of the knowledge, right? So hence here it is stressed. The Sanat Kumar, he was a Nivritti Dharma Abhirataya. He had already taken a religious vow of renunciation. He was totally qualified. And then he gave to Sankhayana. And he was also Dhritavritaya. He had actually taken such a vow. Right? So this is a qualification. This is how the parampara system is actually spoken. Okay. And then Prabhupada in this purport actually makes a point. Unless one hears from the proper authority, one cannot become a preacher. Right? So even to speak, this goes in line with the point we were discussing before. Even to speak, one has to hear. If we don't hear, what are we going to preach? Right? It is only when we hear, we are receiving that knowledge from our seniors, our elderly, our senior devotees, from our guru. We are hearing the knowledge. We are hearing the knowledge from Srila Prabhupada. And when that knowledge goes into our heart, then we are actually empowered to speak. Right? If you don't hear and you're trying to preach, then all our mundane conceptions may actually come through the speaking. Right? So it is very important to hear. And once you hear, then you can actually become a preacher. Right? Therefore, Prabhupada says out of 9 items, the 2 are most important, hearing and chanting. Without hearing nicely, one cannot preach the message of the Vedic knowledge. Right? So what is our process? Shravanam. Then what comes after that? Kirtanam.
Kirtan.
Okay. So let's go a little bit more into detail. Shravanam. Once you hear, then Mananam. Right? Mananam means you have to, what I have heard, how is this applicable to me? What do I learn from this? Reflect on the knowledge. Right? Then Nidhi Dhyasanam is further contemplation. Right? So Shravanam is hearing, Mananam is okay, contemplating, okay, what is this? Nidhi Dhyasanam is okay, really like, okay, how can I apply this in my life? Right? Nidhi Dhyasanam. Then Vandanam. Right? Once you get the knowledge, you're thinking, okay, this is how I want to apply this knowledge in my life. But how will you really apply? You have to pray. You pray to Krishna. Oh, Krishna, I have received this knowledge, but unless I receive your mercy, I cannot apply this knowledge. So Shravanam, Mananam, then Nididhyasanam, right? Then Vandanam, and then Patanam. That means Kirtanam, right? So one speaker was making this point. He says now instead of doing all this Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, right? Vandanam, what people do? They do Shravanam. Then so funny he said Shravanam, Katanam, Pestanam. So what was his point? That we hear something, oh, nice point. Cut it, paste it. Without even thinking how we can actually apply it in our life. Right? So Shravanam, Katanam, Pestanam, and then that's it. So our point is, our process is Mananam, Nididhyasanam, Vandanam, and then Kirtanam. Right? So,
What is the last one?
what?
What's the fifth one?
Kirtanam or Pathanam. Kirtanam. Yes, speak, right? After you actually speak. Okay. Okay. Text number 8.
Sankhyaayana paramahamsya mukhyo vivakshamano bhagavad-vibhutihi jagadasosmad guruven vitaya parasharaya tabrihaspatishcha.
Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The great sage Sankhayana was the chief amongst the transcendentalists, and when he was describing the glories of the Lord in terms of Srimad Bhagavatam, it so happened that my spiritual master Parashar and Brahaspati both heard him. Hare Krishna.
Again, as soon as any personality in the parampara is there, glorification is there. And how is Sankhayana Muni glorified? Parahamsya Mukhya. He's the best of the Paramahamsas. Imagine, best, the chief of all transcendentalists. That is his qualification. And when he, Vivakshamanaha, while reciting, and Jagada, when he was explaining, so while he was reciting and he was explaining, Bhagavad Vibhutihi, that he was actually explaining the glories of the Lord. Then who was there in that assembly? Right? Like how are we hearing our entire Srimad Bhagavatam? Sonakadi Rishi asked Suta Goswami. Suta Goswami was in the assembly when Sukadeva Goswami was speaking to Parikshit Maharaj. Now when Sankhayana Rishi was actually speaking, then who was in the assembly? My Guru. Right? So Smad Guruve Anvityaya. And who is the Guru of Maitreya Rishi? Parashar Muni. Right? So Parashar Muni was there, and also Brihaspati was there. Right? So both these personalities were there, and right, both of them heard from Sankhayana. So what is the lineage we have so far? Lord Sankarshan speaking to the Sanat Kumar, giving the knowledge to Sankhyan Rishi, Sankhyan Rishi giving it to Parasar Muni and Brihaspati, and then that knowledge coming to Maitreya Rishi. Right? So he's established. This is the parampara. This is how the knowledge has come. And now I'm going to speak that knowledge. Okay. So last one more verse.
Provachamayam satayalurukto muni pulastyena puranamadhyam soham tavaitat katayami vatsa Shraddha lave nityam anuvrataya.
The great sage Parasara, as aforementioned, being so advised by the great sage Puvastra, spoke unto me the foremost of the Puranas, Bhagavatam. I shall also describe this before you, my dear son, in terms of my hearing, because you are always my faithful follower.
Mhm. So now he's saying that I received this knowledge and hence I'm going to give it to you. But he's actually making another point here. Provacha Mayam, right? He said to me, Dayaluhu. Because he was so kind-hearted, he actually gave me the knowledge. Who is that he? Who is he here?
Parasharaman.
So Parashamuni, he gave me that knowledge. And then he says, Ukta Muniha Pulatsya. Right? So why Pulatsya has actually come here? Because as story Prabhupada explains in the purport. He says, once upon a time, Parasar Muni, he was actually doing a great sacrifice. So his father, Parasar Muni's father, was actually killed by one of the demons. And then Parasar Muni did a whole sacrifice to kill all the demons. You know? And we hear of this similar, like how like where can we anyway, I'll come back to this question. It's an interesting question. But here and then he actually did a sacrifice to kill all the demons. But then Vashishta Rishi actually came and he said, no, you should stop. You should stop killing all the demons. Just for the fault of one demon, all the demons will be killed? No, that's not proper. Right? So he actually came and he came to Parashar Muni and he said, stop this deadly action. And Vashishta Muni, because he received the instructions from Parasar Muni, he was actually loyal to that instruction and said, okay, I'm going to stop. And when Pulasya is considered who? He's considered as the rishi or the spiritual master of the demons, right? When he actually came to know how Parasar Muni has been so submissive and so loyal to the instructions of Vasishtha Muni, he came and he actually gave him the benediction that you will actually be the speaker of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? So here hence he says, Ukta Muniya Pulatsena, because Pulasya Rishi gave that benediction to Parasar Muni, he, out of his daya, he actually gave me that knowledge. What knowledge did he give? Puranam Adyam, the foremost of all Puranas. Which is the best of all Puranas? Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Purana. Right? So he gave me that Bhagavad Purana. And then the next part of this verse is, Sa aham tava kathayami. I am going to tava, to you, speak the same knowledge. Why? Vatsa, my dear son, I'm going to speak to you the same knowledge because you are Shraddha Lave Anuvritya. Oh, Shraddha Lave Nityam Anuvritya. Right? So one is the point of Shraddha and second is the point of following. So how do we become qualified to receive this knowledge? Yes, as soon as there's a little bit of Shraddha, then we'll say, how does a spiritual life start up? Shraddha. Adha Shraddha, Tatha Sadhu Sangha, Bhajan Kriya, Anantam Nirviti, and so on. Right? It starts with Shraddha. Because of some Shraddha, we say like, oh, these people, they are doing some katha on today. Okay, Lord Shiva. Okay, so let me go and let me hear. Shivratri was just yesterday. Let me go and hear what they have to say. Okay, some Shraddha is there. Right? So it starts off with some Shraddha. But if someone just comes, hears, and then, yes, certainly there is benefit. But after that, he's like, okay, that's it. I heard it was good. Nice katha. That's it. Goes back and does nothing to follow up. Then he's like, yes, there is benefit in hearing, but he's not actually doing the process of mananam, nididhyasanam, actually implementing these points. Right? And here he's actually making the point that not only your Shraddha, you have Shraddha, but you are also Nityam Anuvritta. You receive the knowledge, but you are actually Nityam. You're really focusing on knowledge. Okay, this is what I heard. Now, how can I actually implement this in my knowledge? Not just for, okay, I heard today, so tonight I'll try to do something and then tomorrow back to regular. No, Nityam. His constant meditation is, I heard this knowledge, now how can I implement this? So he's saying, Vidura, because you have this qualification. So when we hear and we are really absorbed on, okay, I heard this, how can I bring it? Nityam, focus on how can I transform my life with this knowledge? Then we can qualify to become hear more and more of this knowledge. Right? So Shraddha plus Nityam Anuvritya. Anuvritya means, Anu means to follow. Follow regularly, right? Nityam. Right? So because you are a follower like this, I will actually give you this knowledge. Right? And also he speaks Vatsa, my dear son. Now, why is that my dear son here? Why is he calling all of a sudden to Vidura, oh, my dear son, I'm going to speak this knowledge to you? What does that indicate? Vatsa, my dear son. He says, Tava etat kathayami Vatsa, my dear son, I will speak this knowledge to you.
Affection.
Affection. Okay, so what does this mean? Why is Maitreya Rishi actually giving this point of affection? Because he is actually saying, I will speak this knowledge out of affection for you. Right? Even when you see in the first canto, second chapter, when Suta Goswami starts speaking, what does he say? Ya sanubhava akila shruti saram ekam. Because of that anubhav, because of that affection for you, I will speak this knowledge to you. Right? And when will the spiritual master develop that mood of affection for his disciple? When the disciple does Shraddha plus Anuvritta. Right? So when we actually, with faith, we hear the knowledge, but not only hear, we are actually eager to implement the knowledge, then the spiritual master is very pleased. And out of his affection, he will actually come and give us more and more knowledge so that we can progress in our spiritual life. Right? So that's the points here. Right? Okay, now another very nice point Prabhupada makes in the purport, he is talking of Parasar's thinking. Parasar was, he could demolish all the demons, but he was thinking that demons are so made that they devour living entities, men and animals. But why on that account should I withdraw my Brahminical qualification of forgiveness? Right? A very nice point to think about, that even though the demon had actually killed his own father, he was saying that's the nature of demons. But why should I change my good quality because that person has, hurt me? Right? So practically also, we come across so many situations where someone can come and say something or do something and we feel hurt. Right? And immediately, what is our mood? We tend to become impulsive and say, oh, he did that, I will do that to him. He said that bad about me, I will tell bad about him. But the point is, okay, he has said that, right? He has said that. But why should I compromise on my qualities that I want to cultivate just because that person is doing bad to me? Why should I give up my Brahminical qualities because someone has done bad to me? Right? So that's the point. For many animals, but that's a good point to meditate on. Okay, so now Parampara we got everyone. This Kumara Sampradaya, starting from Sanat Kumar up to Maitreya Rishi. And Maitreya Rishi is giving the knowledge to Vidura. Right? So let's see any comments, questions, realizations up to this point. Oh, one more point that Prabhupada made. Sorry, I forgot to mention. That's Srimad Bhagavatam was being narrated from time immemorial by the disciplic succession even before the time of Vyasadeva. Right? So we read in the first canto, chapter 4, 5, 6, how Vyasadeva, when Narad Muni came, he actually compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam. But was the Srimad Bhagavatam existent before that? Yes or no? It was. And here we see that how Sankarshan is speaking Srimad Bhagavatam to Sanat Kumar, much, much before Vyasadeva actually compiled the knowledge. So Srimad Bhagavatam has always been in existence. But at that time, just to point out the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam for all of us, we read that entire episode between Narad Muni and Vyasadeva. And then Vyasadeva, he one way knew, the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. But just to bring out that, yes, compared to all the other scriptures, Srimad Bhagavatam has a very unique position. That entire pastime we read. Right? But Srimad Bhagavatam has always been there from time immemorial. Okay. Okay. Let's see any comments, realizations, any questions, any points that you like in our first section.
Prabhuji, I like it, but you said that after hearing, if we do manana, manididhyasana, we implement in our life, then the spiritual master, it becomes very affectionate and he comes and gives more knowledge.
Thank you. Very nice point. Thank you. Anyone else? Any points?
I like this point about, usually the tendency is to retaliate or give tit for tat, but why should I compromise my Brahmanical quality because of the demon's quality is to, harm others, but why should I give up my, that's a beautiful point to meditate.
Like Prabhupada gives an example of this, right? One sage, he went to the river and he saw a scorpio, like drowning, right? And then the sage actually goes and he tries to save the scorpio. But every time he tries to save it, the scorpio bites. And then he has to drop. Then again he goes, he tries to save it. Again he is bitten. And again, And one person is watching, he's saying like, you're trying to save him, but he's biting you. Why don't you give up? And the sage actually said, it is just my Brahmanical nature to do the good. So even though if the scorpio is biting, that is his nature. But why should I compromise my nature of doing good in spite of the scorpio actually biting? So Prabhupada gives that example. Nice, thank you. Any other points?
Hare Krishna. We have to develop affection and love, and without that, we cannot offer prayers to the Lord. We have to develop affection and love in order to give prayers to the Lord.
And throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, we see this, that the only qualification required to offer prayers is to have affection to the Lord. Irrespective of, and we give examples like a demon or a small boy offering prayers, or the wives of Kaliya Nag offering prayers, the only qualification one needs to offer prayer is affection, irrespective of what is one's physical condition, psychophysical nature, does not matter. It is what really matters is the affection you have. Thank you. Okay. Everyone, any other points?
You were mentioning like everyone in the parampara is qualified, the speaker and the hearer, they're all the acharyas are fully qualified. So we may feel that, I'm not, like I'm in that line, but I'm not like qualified like Narottam Das Thakur and all these. So how do we get confidence to speak if we don't feel like we're that qualified?
So didn't we just recently read that verse? Was it in 6th chapter, I think, or the 3rd canto, where we actually read that verse, that even though I am not qualified to speak, but if I don't speak, then what is the use of my speech?
Yadha mati tatha shrutam, something like that. Whatever you understand, you speak it, right?
Yeah. Where is that verse? I think
Yadha matim tatha shrutam, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's verse basically like, yes, I'm not qualified to speak, but if I don't speak, I'm not being chased to this instrument of the tongue. So I have to speak. Otherwise my whole speaking power, what is the use of my speaking power if I don't speak Harikatha? But for speaking, what I have to do? I have to hear. Right? So I have to hear. So as much as we hear, we try to digest. Right? We do our best. Okay, we have heard so and so point. Okay, what is the key point here? How is it applicable? We hear, we absorb, we do our best in like how much ever we can actually get from that knowledge. And then to the extent we realize it, we actually share it. So because only by sharing can we actually receive the mercy of the Guru. It's the instruction of the Guru. Go out and share. Like how Prabhupada used to like so proudly talk about Saraswati, right? Mother Malti's daughter, Saraswati. And he used to say that how she's a small girl, but still she goes out and she asks everyone, do you know who is Krishna? And she says, he is the supreme personality of God, like a small girl. And Prabhupada was so proud. See this Saraswati? She is preaching. This is particularly in India and like Mother Malti's daughter. So whatever we hear, to that extent, we should share. And the more we share, the more we are empowered to absorb the knowledge and then to speak. Right? But we shouldn't give up that nature, because that is otherwise, what is the use of a tongue? If we don't speak Harikatha, we don't speak what we have heard, then what will we speak? We'll speak mundane topics. What is the score? Who won the match? Or who is winning the politics? Who is all those things? We'll just talk upon nonsense, right? So as much as possible, we try to hear and speak Harikatha. Okay. Okay, so let's continue. So now we have heard of the entire parampara. Now we will actually hear the story. The story starts. I mean, the questions that Vidura has asked, the entire aspect of creation from Garbhodaksha Vishnu. So we read up to the aspect of Sarga. Now we are going to read Visarga aspect from Brahmaji onwards. Okay. So how does that come up to Brahma starting to create that Visarga? How will it begin? So that is the next section. So text 10.
Udaplutam vishvamidam tadasid yanidrayami litadrin niyamilayat ahindratalpe dishayana eka krita kshana svatmarato niriha.
Okay, so I think we have Pratna Mataji and Gopinacharya Prabhu. Good, Pratna Mataji, would you like to read? Text number 10.
Yes. At that time, when the three worlds were submerged in water, Garbhodaksha Vishnu was alone. Lying on his bedstead, the great snake Ananta, and although he appeared to be in slumber, in his own internal potency, free from the action of the external energy, his eyes were not completely closed. Right?
Mm. So he's starting off by saying Vishwam aplutam uda, right? So he's saying tada at that time. So the three worlds were actually submerged in water. So when is this time actually being talked about? So there are two kinds of annihilations. One annihilation is at the night of Brahma. So when Brahma goes to sleep, then all the three worlds are annihilated. Right? Imagine when we go to sleep, nothing happens. When Brahma goes to sleep, all the three worlds actually get into water. Right? So that is the time we are describing. At that time when the three worlds were submerged in water, then who was there? Garbhodaksha Vishnu was alone. So in the previous sections, we have read all the way from Karandaksha Vishnu, how he actually creates, all the point to how he actually expands and enters into each universe as Garbhodaksha Vishnu. Now we have come to that point. Now coming to the point of Garbhodaksha Vishnu, now we are saying, okay, at the night of Brahma, what happens? What happens, right? The three worlds are submerged in water. Garbhodaksha Vishnu is alone. And then he is actually lying on Talpe. Talpe means snake bed. Right? So Garbhodaksha Vishnu lies on the snake bed, Anantashesh. And then what is described? Here it says, Milita Drik, whose eyes do not close. Why does the eyes, so Brahma has gone to sleep. Does Garbhodaksha Vishnu also go to sleep? But here is saying that Amilita Drika, eyes does not close. Why? Because he is always engaged in relishing with his internal potency, Chit Shakti. He's always enjoying, he's very active with his Chit Shakti, internal potency. Right? Okay. So whose eyes do not close, Amilita Drika, right? So that's the point. And then it says, right. So Nidraya Amilita Drika, though he was slumber, but eyes were not closed because he's always engaged with his Chit Shakti. He's always Swa Atma Rato. He's enjoying his internal energy, right? Niraha, without any external energy. So what happens? So at Karadaksha Vishnu, we made the point that there are so many potencies of the Lord. But what was Karadaksha Vishnu feeling? That yes, I enjoy with all those potency, but I also enjoy with Maya Devi, the external potency. She is left alone. Hence, he actually glances upon the external potency. Right? So that we read about Kanadakshay Vishnu. So now we have reading about Garbhodakshay Vishnu, that when the entire, in the night time of Brahma, when the creation is not active, then Garbhodakshay Vishnu, he is enjoying with the internal potency. And at that time, he is not engaging with the external potency. So the word nirhaha means he is not engaged with the external, free from the action of external energy. And at the time, he's just engaged with his internal potency. And then when creation starts at the whole day of Brahma, then what? He glances at the external Maya Shakti, and then the creation goes ahead. Right? So significance of that eyes and the glance. Is that okay? The point makes sense? Right? Why it is stressed on the point amilita drika, and then the word of swa atma ratu, enjoying the internal energy, and niraha, without the external energy. Right? Okay, so next verse.
Sontas sharirerpita bhuta shukshma kalatmikam shaktim udirayanaha uvasa tasmin sharile padesve yatha nalo daruni rudha viryaha. Gopinathacharya Prabhu? Or
Just like the strength of fire within fuel wood, the Lord remained within the water of dissolution, submerging all the living entities in their subtle bodies. He lay in the self-invigorated energy called Kala.
Yes. Okay. So now it is being described more about Garbhodakshay Vishnu. And it is said that, let's start with this Shukshma. Right? It says Bhuta Shukshma. So Bhuta Shukshma means the subtle energy. Right? So he's actually saying, Sir, the Lord, within Sharire, so within the transcendental body of the Lord, what was kept? The subtle body of all living entities. Right? So there are two, as I mentioned, two annihilations. One is at the night of Brahma, one is at the end of the lifetime of Brahma. Right? So when at the night of Brahma, all the gross bodies are annihilated, but the subtle body remains. So when Brahma sleeps, all the living entities from Swargalok below, right, from Swargalok to below, they all actually enter into the womb of Garbhodakshay Vishnu along with their subtle bodies, right? Not the gross body, with their subtle bodies. So here it says, Sa Anta Sharire, within the transcendental body of the Lord, he kept, Arpita, he kept what? Shukshma Sharire, Shukshma Bhuta. So subtle body was kept. But then Kala Atma came. But with the form of time, the Shakti, the time energy, Udirayanaha, invigorating, right? What happened? So, yeah. Okay. So basically, I'm just seeing this verse on the next verse talks about it. Yeah. So he was inspired by the Shakti of time, and he okay. So how Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains this, he actually says that at the time of the night of Brahma, what happens? Then the subtle bodies of all living entities from Swargalok to below, right? So the Devtas, the men, other living entities, they actually, by the influence of time, he actually causes the destruction of the gross body, and the subtle body actually enters into the womb of Garbhodakshay Vishnu, right? Yeah, and this I agree, yeah. Okay. And then further it says he resides below Patalok. He resides in Swapade, in his own abode within the water, right? And by his power, which stops the water from entering, right? And then the example of what is saying, just like the strength of fire within fuel wood, right? So within wood you have fire, but can you see the fire? No, it's not there. So similarly, the living entities above Swargalok, right? They cannot actually see Garbhodakshay Vishnu at that point. Right? So inhabitants of Mahalok or higher planets, they cannot actually see the Garbhodakshay Vishnu. Hence, he is compared to fire within wood. Okay. This is okay?
A little confusion. So at the night of the Brahma, so all the worlds where the Karnodakasaya Vishnu, they all get annihilated at that point?
So,
Because we are,
Karnadakshay Vishnu, right? We read about that point. But then we are talking of within each universe, right?
right.
Krishna enters into each universe as Garbhodakshay Vishnu, right? Now, at the night of Brahma, there is, so how does that annihilation take place? So when Garbhodakshay Vishnu is lying, he lies on Anantashesh on the water, created from his own body. But when the annihilation at the night of Brahma happens, then the water actually overflows and all these universes are flooded. They're covered with water, right? Hence, it makes the three worlds. That is what? The lower planetary system, the middle, and the higher. Higher up to Swargalok, not beyond that. They are actually covered all the way with water.
Thank you.
Okay. So, inspired by the time energy, then Garbhodakshay Vishnu takes all the living entities in this planet and he takes a subtle body and he keeps it within himself. Everyone okay with that point?
So Prabhuji, you said that the residents of the upper planetary system above the heavenly planet cannot see Garbhodakshay Vishnu.
Yeah. And just like fire within wood cannot be seen, so similarly, the living entities above Swargalok, Mahalok and higher, they cannot actually see Garbhodakshay Vishnu. Everyone is okay with this point?
Thank you, Prabhuji. So Prabhuji, so till this Vargaloka, everything is dissolved, right?
Yes.
Okay, so only above that. So it's something like when Krishna was speaking Bhagavad Gita, only Arjuna could see and others were not able to see like what is going on, what Krishna is talking to, something like that. Is there that the others are not able to see? Because even if they are there, but they can't see like that. What's going on?
Garbhodakshay Vishnu, because it's like everything's covered by water now, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why this verse is actually saying, see, water is overflowing, it's covering all these up to Swargalok. But then, isn't Garbhodakshay Vishnu right there? Shouldn't he also be covered with water? But here, what is the point it says? It particularly mentions that point that he resides behind below Patalok in his own abode, Swapade, by the power of stop water from entering. So just around Garbhodakshay Vishnu, there is no water. But remaining everything, water has overflowed all the way to Swargalok. Right? And because the water has overflowed, then the higher planet system, they cannot see Garbhodakshay Vishnu, though he is within. So just like in the water body, you may see, oh, I just see the water on top, but we don't know underneath there may be whales and other aquatics. We cannot see. So similarly for the higher planet system, they see water, but they cannot see Garbhodakshay Vishnu. Right? So similarly like fire within wood or living entities within water. Okay, everyone good?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this the pralaya?
Yeah, destruction at the night of Brahma. So
Uh,
there are kinds
Is
of
it not the pralaya? Pralaya?
yes, so different kinds of annihilation, right? Right. So one annihilation is at the night of Brahma, one is at the end of lifetime of Brahma.
I was asking about pralaya and mahapralaya, right? Pralaya.
So pralaya means destruction, right?
So is this the same, the night of
At the night.
ordinary pralaya, and mahapralaya is when the death of Brahma or something. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Right. Okay. Text number 12.
Chaturyuganam jasahasramapsu swapan swadyodirtaya swashaktya kalakyaya sadita karma tantro lokanapitan dadrishe swadehe. Vrindavan Vilasan.
The Lord lay down for 4,000 yuga cycles in his internal potency, and by his external energy, he appeared to be sleeping within water. When the living entities were coming out for further development of their fruitive activities, actuated by the energy called Kala Shakti, he saw his transcendental body as bluish. Hare Krishna.
Mhm. So why does say Chatur Yugana? So what is the duration of the day of Brahma? 1,000 cycles of the 4 yugas. What is the duration of night of Brahma? Same time. Right? So Brahma 12 hours awake, 12 hours asleep. Right? For us, we try to do 6, 7 hours or 8 hours. But Brahma has 12 hours and 12 hours, right? So that 12 hours when Brahma is sleeping, that Chatur Yugana, during that time, the Lord was actually lying down. So previous verse talked about how all the living entities with their subtle body, they entered into Garbhodakshay Vishnu. And then Garbhodakshay Vishnu one way was Swapna, dreaming during those night time of Brahma, right? But it says Swaya, with his own internal potency. You mentioned that earlier. Actually, he's enjoying with the internal potency during that night time, right? Then he was actually thinking Swashaktaya, by his own energy. What is the name of the energy? Kala Shakti. By his own Kala Shakti, he realized, okay, now is the time to for Brahma to wake up. 12 hours are over, right? Time to actually again do the aspect of creation. So by his own Kala Shakti, inspired by Karma Tantra of the Lokan, where all the living entities who are within his womb, they have what? Karmic balance. That from the previous day of Brahma, they did karma, and whatever karma is there, that's still there. So by that karma tantra lokan, right, that all the living entities with their karma, by the aspect of time, again he actually glanced upon these living entities so that they can actually continue their aspect of karma and then finally try to get out of this material world. Right? And why is the body of the Lord described here as bluish? Right? So it says because he had the sum total of aggregate combination of all living entities with their karmic balance, it actually looked bluish. It actually looked bluish. Right? Because the sum total of all the karma or the polluted mentality of all the living entities was right there, it actually looked bluish. Right. Okay. Next verse. Next. Everyone is with me?
Prabhuji, like, why is that bluish, Prabhuji? Like, how do we understand? I understand, like you said, it's the sum total of karmic thing. But why is it blue? If it is not important, we can move on.
No, bluish isn't. So they actually. So we consider three modes of material nature, right? They are sometimes connected with the colors. What? Red, blue, and
Yellow.
yellow, right? They say
Okay.
the modes are associated with these colors. So because the mode of passion is actually represented with that mode of blue color, that's why. And I have to check this more, but that's what I explain right now.
Sure.
Does anyone has any other points to add to this bluish complexion?
Prabhuji, this is not the transcendental blue. This is just
The,
like I was thinking that how Lord Shiva drank the poison and his neck was blue, right? So that's what we are saying here because of all the polluted mentality and the karmic reactions, his color was blue.
yeah. So it is not the bluish complexion of the Lord. This is actually a blue of the sinful mentality of all living entities.
Yeah. Rosie, one another question, what is the difference like between the partial dissolution, like when the Brahma night to the complete end of the Brahma?
Yeah. So when Brahma's lifetime ends, right, when 100 years are over, then all the living entities along, so all the living entities then actually enter into the body of Karuna Dakshaya Vishnu. And then they'll wait until the entire creation takes place. Again, when Mahavishnu actually breathes out the universes, then the living entities. So that we read before in the 5th chapter, right? So
Okay.
happens at the end of the day of Brahma, and the end of the life of Brahma.
Okay.
That creation that we read before is at the end of life of Brahma. Now we are reading the annihilation at the end of the day of Brahma. Right?
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Text 13.
तस्यार्थसूक्ष्माभिनविष्टदृष्टेर् अन्तर्गतोऽर्थो रजसा तनीयान् गुणेन कालानुगतेन विदः शुष्यंस्तदाभिद्यतनाभिदेशात्.
Krishna translations. The subtle subject matter of creation on which the Lord's attention was fixed was agitated by the material mode of passion, and thus the subtle form of creation pierced through his abdomen.
So now, see, the lotus is already there. We are talking of the night of Brahma. So lotus is already there. But what happens is now tasya abhi ni vistara drishta. Drishta means drishti means what? Glance. So now, because of the influence of time, the glance of Garbhodakshay Vishnu, it falls upon the Sukshma Artha, the subtle energy which is within his womb. So the attention is fixed on the subtle energy. And because of the glance, what happens? Anta Gataha Artha, the material elements within him, Rajasa, by the mode of passion, right? Rajas Guna, Rajaha, by the mode of passion, and Kala Angena, in course of time, it actually Vidaha, agitated, and then Tada Abhidhyata, that means what? Nabhi. So that means all the material energy, the Lord has glanced upon the material energy in the womb, right? So that glance upon the material energy plus the influence of time plus the mode of passion, that all those living entities that get pierced from the womb into the navel that is coming into the stem of the lotus, which is coming out from the navel of the Lord. So all the living entities now are traveling from that womb through the stem to towards upwards. Right? So hence it says that they pierced through the abdomen and they actually entered into the lotus stem. Okay. Okay, next verse, 14.
Are all the planetary systems on the lotus stem?
Yeah, but they are submerged in water.
Oh.
They're submerged in water. So it is there, but they are submerged in water. So,
Sapadmakosha sahasodadishtat kalena karma pratibhadhanena swarochisa tat salilam vishalam vidyotayan arka ivatmayonihi.
Hare Krishna. Piercing through this some total form of fruitive activity of the living entities took the shape of bud of a lotus flower generated from the personality of Vishnu, and by his supreme will it illuminated everything like the sun and dried up the vast waters of devastation.
Hmm.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
right? So here it says that material, subtle energy that was in the womb that actually entered into the stem of the lotus and it transformed into what? A lotus bud. Okay, lotus bud, right? And then it stood above the waters of devastation. So it came above. So imagine like Garbhodaksha Vishnu, water is filled all the way up to Swargalok, and then the living entity are piercing through that stem, and then they come above the water, and then a bud is formed, right? The bud of the lotus, right? And then it says, right? So till that lotus bud and Vishnu, okay. So that's the main thing. So then suddenly appeared, right? So the Saha Padma Kosha, that lotus bud of the lotus flower, is suddenly appeared. And Kalena Karma Pratibhadena, by the force of the awakened karmas of the Jiva. So what does that lotus represent? The awakened karma of the Jiva. So karma was there, but it was sleeping, it was at rest during the night time, but during the daytime, it becomes awakened, right? And then Rochisa, by the own effulgence, Vidyotan illuminating Shalila Vishalam, the vast water of devastation, Eva Arkaha, like the sun. Atma Yoni, the source is actually Vishnu. So when this lotus is actually came out of above the water surface and came above, then just by the illumination of the lotus, it was just like the sun. Arkaha means the sun. It actually illumined all directions. Okay.
Oh, a little bit more confusing. So we already have a lotus flower on which the Brahma is sitting and he's sleeping now, but there's another bud coming out. How do we understand this?
So actually, Brahma, in the night time, when you talk of sleeping, so this is one thing I have to confirm, but it appears that Brahma also enters into Garbhodaksha Vishnu when he's sleeping, along with all living entities. But the devastation is up to Swargalok. But all living entities from Brahma onwards are actually in Garbhodaksha Vishnu. That's what I was trying to find out, but this is what, based on this reading. Because now it will say that how Brahma, he'll actually appear on that lotus. And then he'll start searching in all directions. Right? So Brahma himself, and then the lotus bud is sum total of all. Because Brahma himself is also a jiva, right? Most of the times. So even he has some karmic something, right? And then he's actually appeared there. Okay. So let's continue and then we'll revisit the whole thing. So text 15.
Talokapadmam sa ueva Vishnu Ravi Vishat Sarva Gunavabhasam Tasmin Swayam Vedamayo Vidhata Swayam Bhuvam Yam Smavadanti Sabhut.
Into the universal lotus flower, Lord Vishnu personally entered as a supersoul. And when it was thus impregnated with all the modes of material nature, the personality of Vedic wisdom, whom we call the self-born, was generated.
So now Brahma is generated on the top of the lotus. So that already indicates that Brahma himself was actually entered into the womb. Right? So he says, Tad Loka Padmam, that universal lotus flower, U Eva Vishaha Pravishasit. So the Lord actually, as a super soul, he entered into it. Right? So it was all the living entities with their karmic balance entered, but now the Paramatma is actually entering into it. So Garbhodakshay Vishnu and then Shirodakshay Vishnu. And then when Sarva Guna Avabhasam, when it was impregnated with all modes of material nature, then Swayam, in person, who was generated? And 3 points are actually made. Veda Mayaha, the personality of Vedic wisdom. First. Second, Vidhata, the controller of the universe. And third, Swayambhuvam, self-born. All three are referring to Brahma. He was actually Sa Abhut. He was generated at the top of the lotus. Okay. So Prabhupada actually explains here. Okay. Right. So he says he goes to sleep with Narayan at the time of the devastation. See in Prabhupada's purport? So he says Brahma goes to sleep with Narayan at the time of devastation. And when there is another creation, he is born in this way. So it's like every day at the starting of the day, Brahma is actually born. Like one way he wakes up. But he sleeps with Narayan and then he comes. From this discussion, we also have the conception of three. The gross Virat form, the subtle Hiranya Garbha, and the material creative force Brahma. So we have discussed this earlier, that how there are these three aspects. Maybe I should share my image quickly. So we have come to...
Prabhuji, Narayan here refers to Garbhodaksha Vishnu.
Yeah. Mhm. Yes, Mataji. Yeah. He sleeps with Narayan. Okay, does everyone understand or is there confusion? Let's see what questions we have up to this point. Or would someone like to summarize this aspect of creation?
The only thing that's confusing is that you said that at the night of Brahma, the
Yeah.
gross bodies are annihilated,
Yes.
but everyone below Swarga Loka and below. So it just, the subtle bodies go into the body of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. So it's confusing because Brahma Loka is above Swarga Loka. So why did he also enter Garbhodaksha Vishnu?
So all the living entities enter, but the devastation is up to Swargalok. The water is filling up to Swargalok, right? But I think all the living entities, even the higher planetary system, they are actually entering into the body of Garbhodaksha Vishnu.
It says that they couldn't see it, right? Like just like fire within fuel. The
Yeah.
living entities above Swarga Loka could not see Garbhodaksha Vishnu.
Hmm. Yeah. I have to search a little bit more on this. Maybe next week I'll have an answer for you. Because this was something like, yes, there are living entities in Mahalok and Janalok, and they are doing their tapasya even during the night of Brahma, but Brahma himself goes into Garbhodaksha Vishnu. It's I'm not so clear on this point. Okay, so maybe I will clarify this. I'll have to ask someone because I was looking for this description. At least in our Acharya's commentary in this Jiva Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, I look, they don't elaborate on this point, right? So I'll have to look somewhere else. But this is like towards the end of the purport of text 15, Prabhupada mentions of these three aspects. He says at 15, from this description, we have the conception of three: the gross Virat form, the subtle Hiranyagarbha, and the material creative force Brahma. So if you see in this image, you can see all the three. The gross uh, Virat form. So we read about the Virat form, how the Virat form you can see in the center is a Virat form. All the different limbs of the Virat form represents all the planetary systems. Then there's subtle Hiranyagarbha. The sum total of all the subtle bodies is the Hiranyagarbha, and the material creative force, which is the Chaturmukha Brahma. So he is right here. Right? So you have the Virat Rupa, the subtle Hiranyagarbha, right? So if you see these arrows, right? And then is the Brahmaji on top. Okay. So that one point I'm going to clarify, and I'll let you know that which living entities are actually do not enter the body of Garbhodaksha Vishnu, and which actually during the night of Brahma. Are they still, Mahalok and Janalok? Do those sages actually just stay and they meditate all through the night? Or do they actually also enter into the body of Garbhodaksha? So that's one thing I need to clarify. Does anyone know? Gopinath Prabhu, anyone?
So yeah, I had heard, I think one of the Rompal Maharaj classes, and there he was talking about that both these aspects, they simultaneously exist. One aspect is, yes, it gets devastated, but I think he was explaining about Bhur, Bhuva, Swar, and then from that perspective, he was saying it gets inundated, but then a lot of these residents, they move up to the other planets, the higher planets. But yeah, I think that's how he was explaining that because it gets too heated because of the heat, and then they get go to the higher planets. So all of them they move up to the Brahmaloka.
Yeah. So yes, okay. So maybe so which living entities move up then?
So from I think Janaloka, Taploka, and Maharloka, they all move to Brahmaloka. That's how he was explaining. I remember. But yeah.
Okay. So yeah, maybe we can do a little research on this point. Okay, so maybe next week we'll maybe ask maybe Chaitanya Prabhu or other devotees and see if we can get some answer for this. Okay, so just to quickly do an overview of the last few verses, this section is basically, we started off by reading how the water of the dissolution at the end of Brahma's day, it actually covers all the universes up to Swargalok. They are all in the water of dissolution, but by the power of the Lord himself, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, though he's at the bottom of the universe, he is not covered with water, right? By his own power, he's still on Anantashesh, undisturbed. He's actually enjoying with his own internal potency during the night of Brahma, right? And hence his eyes are not fully closed. We read about that, right? Now, at the okay, so the devastation, at the time of devastation, what happens because of the influence of the Kal Shakti at the night of Brahma, as the night of Brahma is approaching, then all the living entities up to Swargaloka, they actually enter into the body of Garbhodakshay Vishnu with their subtle bodies. The gross body is annihilated, right? So the subtle bodies along with the jivas are in the body of Garbhodakshay Vishnu. That is also because of the Kala Shakti, right? Then at the end of the night of Brahma, when it is again time, daytime, sun is rising. I mean, how we have sun is rising. So similarly, at the day of Brahma, when the day is beginning, then again the Lord, by the influence of the Kala Shakti, decides, okay, now it's time for the living entities to again go through the entire cycle. So he glances upon the subtle bodies of the living entities, and because of the glance, plus the karma of the living entities, plus the Kala Shakti is anyway there, these living entities, they actually pierce through the abdomen of Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and they travel up through the navel, and that navel, they are traveling up through the navel, and then that lotus stem, it actually rises above the water of devastation and appears as a lotus bud. A lotus bud. And then after that, upon the lotus bud, agitated by the three modes of material nature plus the mode of passion, then Brahma again appears on the top of this lotus bud. Right? And the living entities are all through the stem of the lotus. Right? And we can understand the living entities all through the stem because based on their karma, they'll go to a different planetary system which are situated along the stem of the lotus. Okay. Okay, so let's see what questions we have. So that one main question I'm going to answer, right? So that's something I have to research. But other than that, any other questions?
And all the water will be cleared up, Prabhu.
Okay, so
The
that's next. We are going to come. That's the next part we are going to read.
okay.
Yeah, that's yet to come. So up to now, we have just come to a point of Brahma appearing on the lotus, and then we'll continue.
But Prabhuji, we just read in 14 that all the water gets dried up by that illumination.
It said
The
that?
translation of 14, last line says, the what dried up the vast waters of devastation.
Hmm. Okay, so the water is already dried up at this point. Because interesting. So Prabhupada has actually already explained the point. In Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary, he just mentions that it is actually illuminating the effulgence. Right. So Prabhupada is actually taking it one step further and saying that it dried up the vast waters of devastation. Okay. So water also is dried up to this point. Okay. Okay. Any other questions on this one? Okay, so let's take a 5 minutes break, and I'll also see about this. Gopinath Prabhu posted a link on the group. I'll quickly go through that and see if we have more answers about that. So let's take a 5 minutes break and then we'll come back and we can continue with text number 60. Okay. So thank you so much. Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna, everyone. Please, let's continue our discussion. Okay, so we are in text number 16. So I looked at the link that Govinda Acharya Prabhu shared, and the point, I mean, we still need to do more research on this point, because it just makes the point that the people just travel from Mahalok, they go to higher Janalok, but still that question is still not answered. So we'll have to discuss like what I have to do some research to see what kind of living entities they stay, and where does Brahma actually sleep. So that's the thing I'll search. One thing about Vamshi Gopal Prabhu asked the question about the water, and Vrindavan Vilasini Mataji was saying about how the light of the stem actually dries up the water. That is the other point which I'm not clear, because I mentioned later on, because we'll read further, that after Brahma does his meditation, he actually dries up the water and the wind. And that comes later on. So Prabhupada here mentions, actually it's not that in the verse, but Prabhupada mentions the point that how the light itself is drying up the vast waters of devastation. So I have to see why Prabhupada is mentioning that here, though the sloka does not actually mention that. And later on, it will come in the next chapter, or further, not in 8, not in 9, in 10, where he actually talks Brahma after his meditation, how he actually dries up the water. And then he'll start the aspect of creation. And hence I said it comes later. Okay. So that's the other thing I have to see why Prabhupada here mentions drying up the vast waters of meditation. Okay. So those 2 points I'll have to look. Okay, let's continue. Text 16 now.
Tasyam sachambho ruhakarnikayam avastito lokamapashyamanaha parikraman vyomni vivritta netrash chatvari lebe nudisham mukhani. Shirali Mataji, did you read it already? Yeah, okay. Brahma, born out of the lotus flower, could not see the world, although he was situated in the whirl. He therefore circumambulated all of space, and while moving his eyes in all directions, he achieved 4 heads in terms of the 4 directions.
Right. So here says Saha. So Tasyam Saha, so it's referring to Brahma. So Brahma, who was actually born, Ruha Karnikayam, on the whirl of the lotus, Brahma was again, he was situated. And then what did he do? He was actually searching, because what is Brahma's job? Okay, the world is there. I have to do, make sure everything is happening. Okay, creation aspect. But there is actually no world. So he was apashyamana lokam. He was not able to see any planetary systems. And then parikramam. He was looking in all, circumambulating. Parikrama, we say, right? Okay, going around. So he was looking in all directions. And because he looked in the 4 directions, he got 4 heads. Because he looked in circumambulated, he got 4 heads. And then it says, and Lebhe Anudisham Mukhani. He actually achieved 4 heads because he looked in 4 directions. Okay. So that's why our Brahma is 4-headed. Okay. Then text 17.
Tasmaduganta Shvasavnavagurno Jalormi Chakrad Salilad Virudham Upashita Kanjamuloka Tatvam Natmanamad Dva Adhavidad Adi Devaha. Prathanam.
Yes, ma'am. Lord Brahma, situated in that lotus, could not perfectly understand the creation, the lotus of him or himself. At the end of the millennium, the air of the devastation began to move the water and the lotus in great circular waves.
Mm-hmm. So that's the other reason, like here, it seems like the water is still there. It's not dried up, right? This comes later again, right? So here it says what? Tasmat. So when Brahma looked in 4 directions, he got 4 heads. After that, what happened? Yuga Anta. At the end of the millennium, right? So Brahma was actually searching for one whole yuga. He was actually trying to understand. And then he says, when Swasana, the air of devastation, it got avagurna, it caused movement of the Jala Urmi Chakrat. So because the air of devastation was causing the movement of the water in circular waves. There are like circular waves coming out. And then Brahma, Virudham, who was situated on the top of the lotus flower, he was in astonishment. So imagine Brahma just gets up and he's on a lotus. He sees the water and there's like circular motion of the water, right? And he does not see the loka, right? He apashyatam loka, so he cannot see the loka. Then he's in astonishment, and therefore it says loka tatvam. He could not understand what is the mystery of the creation. And then Atmanam, he could not understand himself. Na adha avidat, and he could not perfectly understand, even though he is Adideva. Even though he is the Adideva, he is the first demigod, he could not understand the mystery of creation, neither could he understand himself, Atmanam. Right? And then here, the point is that Brahma, even though he is the Adi Deva, the first demigod, he is bewildered how to create what was actually already previously created. And this actually shows that how the power of creation belongs to who? The Lord, not to Brahma. Right? Because if it was his own power, then he have woken up and said like, okay, now let me create. But he was confused. That means that power that he created previous time, it was given to someone and now it is taken away. So now again he has to connect to that someone to get the power and again do the creation. Okay? So Prabhupada makes the point that Brahma was perplexed about the creation and he tried to understand it for 1 millennium. He was trying to understand, right? And then Prabhupada concludes, therefore, no one can actually know the mystery of creation. Brahmaji, the highest living entity with 4 heads, right? We are like so tiny, we have one small brain, and we try to understand the whole aspect of Brahma with 4 heads for 1 millennium. He's thinking, and still he could not understand. So the Prabhupada concludes that we cannot understand this cosmic manifestation by our mental speculation. We are so limited in our capacity that unless Krishna reveals it to us, we cannot understand. Text 18.
Ka esha yosav aham abja prishta etat kuto vabjam ananyarapsu asti yadhastad iha kinchanaitat adishtitam yatra satanubhavyam.
Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Lord Brahma, in his ignorance, contemplated, who am I that am situated on the top of this lotus? Wherefrom has it sprouted? There must be something downwards, and that from which this lotus has grown must be within the water. Hare Krishna.
So here it says, so what is the first question that Brahma asks? Kaha esha ya asau aham abja prishte. Right? The first line is the first question. Who am I situated on top of a lotus? Right? So Brahma himself with 4 heads, he wakes up and he's thinking like, who am I? I'm situated on top of this lotus. That's the first question. Second question he asks is, Kuta va abjam? You see in the second line he says, Eta kuta va abjam? Kutaha, from where does this lotus come from? First of all, who am I situated on the lotus? Second, where did this lotus come from? So it says, Ananyat apsu asti. And there is nothing but this lotus. And then asti hi adastat. So there is nothing but this lotus must have some origin. It must be coming from something, right? So I don't know who I am. I'm seated on this lotus. I see nothing but this lotus and the waves, everything is flooded and the circular waves are in the water, right? All the waves are going around. So there must be something from which this lotus actually begins, right? Iha kinchana etat adhishtan. There must be a foundation for this lotus. Yatra sata na bhavyam. So this is actually Brahma was thinking. Shata means his intelligence. So he used his intelligence to find out that there must be a source to this lotus, right? And Prabhupada makes this point that anyone who is intelligent will actually think, what is my source? Who am I? And there must be some source to this entire material world, right? We are so absorbed with our gratifying the needs of our body and our mind, that we don't even think that there must be a source behind this whole thing, right? Anyone who's intelligent, what is the first question? Ki ami, right? Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prabhupada often quotes this, how Sanatana Goswami, he actually met Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he said, what? Ki ami, who am I? People call that, oh, I am so learned, I am this finance minister and so on. But I don't even know who I am. And then I am actually forced with these three kinds of miseries which are acting upon me. I don't even know why I am forced with all these miseries. That is the intelligent question to ask, right? So Brahma, as our head of a parampara, is actually showing us how initially we should actually focus on this question: who am I and who is the source? And Brahma actually started off with that, right? Actually, that curiosity is there within everyone, right? Everyone actually has a curiosity. Like, why are we sending all these spaceships, to NASA spaceships, going to the moon, going to Mars planet? And we're trying to go. Why? To find out. Now, what is the source? That curiosity is there. But we are looking in the wrong direction. Even Brahma, with all his effort, could not find out. The only way we can find out is to get knowledge from Krishna, right? But that curiosity should always be there, and we should try to find out the answer. So Prabhupada makes a point. Even the most intelligent man is he, the most intelligent man is he who tries to find out the cause of his personal existence and that of the whole cosmic creation, and thus tries to find the ultimate cause of everything. Okay. Okay, next, text 19.
Sa itam udvikshya tad abjanala na dibhirantar jalam avivesha narvagatastat karanala nala nabhim vichinvam stat avindatad.
Lord Brahma, thus contemplating, entered the water through the channel of the stem of the lotus. But in spite of entering the stem and going nearer to the navel of Vishnu, he could not trace out the root.
So Brahma is Sa Itam Udviksha. He was actually thinking, who am I born on this lotus? I see nothing but this lotus. There must be some source. He's thinking in this way. And then what did he do? Avivesha. Avivesha means he entered into Anta Jalam, right? So through Abja, Nala, Nabhi. So through that Nabhi, right? Nala, Nabhi. Nabhi is the navel. And through that, what was there? The channel, Nala, right? So the channel of the stem of the lotus. So he entered into the stem, right? And then it says, Arva Gataha. And in spite of going into that stem of the lotus, and he's going close to the Nabhi. Nabhi of whom? Garbhodakshay Vishnu, right? So in spite of going close to the navel of Garbhodakshay Vishnu, na vichinvan abhidanta. He could not understand what is the root cause of everything, right? So even by one personal endeavor, he's coming close to Garbhodakshay Vishnu. Still, he cannot understand who Garbhodakshay Vishnu is, like who is the source, right? So Prabhupada, first point in the purport, by our personal endeavor, one may go nearer to the Lord, but without the Lord's mercy, one cannot reach the ultimate point, right? So by some good fortune, someone may come close to Radha Golokananda and see Radha Golokananda, but still nothing. Like, who are these? Some marble, they'll just see marble, they'll just see stone, right? Unless one gets the mercy of the Lord, even though we are close to the Lord, we cannot see the Lord, right? So Brahmaji, he came physically close to the Lord, but still could not understand who the Lord is, right? So, and such understanding is possible only by devotional service. Bhaktya Mam Abhijanati, right? And then text 20.
Tamasya pare viduratmasargam vichinvato bhut sumaham strini nemihi yodeha bhajam bhayam irayanaha parikshinotayur ajasya hetihi.
O Vidura, while searching in that way about his existence, Brahma reached his ultimate time, which is the eternal wheel in the hand of Vishnu, and which generates fear in the mind of living entity. like the fear of death.
Hmm. So Brahma actually he went down to the navel, right? And tamasi apare, because of that ignorant way of searching, right? Because he was not doing it through bhakti, he was not doing it through penances and perseverance. Because of that, because of the ignorant way of searching, Atma Sargam Vichin Vataha. He could not figure out what is the cause of the creation, right? Then what happened? Sumahan Trinemihi. Trinemihi means time of three dimensions. What are three dimensions of time?
Past, present, and future.
Yes. So it says Sumahan Trinemihi. So that great time, which is of three dimensions, which has past, present, and future. And then what does this time cause? Bhayam Deha Bhajam. Those who are embodied, who have this body, Deha, it causes what in them? Bhaya. Right? It is a time factor that causes fear for everyone who is actually embodied, right? So all of us. And then it says parikshinoti, and then ayuhu ajasya heti. Right? And it is this time factor that actually diminishes the ayu of 100 years, okay, 100 years of the living entities. And this time is the amsha of the chakra of Vishnu. Right? So basically, what is the point here? That Brahma was actually looking, but he had a tamasi, an ignorant way of searching, right? And he was unsuccessful. And what was happening during his search? Time was actually progressing, right? The time that actually that creates fear in those who are embodied, and which actually diminishes the 100 years of all living entities. 100 years of us or 100 years of Brahma. It is diminishing that life. That time was actually proceeding, right? So that time was actually progressing while he was engaged in this search. Right? Okay. Then further.
Tato nivritto pratilabdha kama swadishnyam asadya punasadevaha shanarjita shvasa nivritta chitto nyashidad arudha samadhi yogaha.
Thereafter, being unable to achieve the desired destination, he retired from such searching and came back again to the top of the lotus. Thus, controlling all objectives, he concentrated his mind on the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna.
So he tried his best, right? He did his personal endeavor. He went all the way down. And then Tatha thereafter, and then Nivritaha. He retired from his endeavor. He said, I tried my best, but this is not working out. So let me give this up. He retired from this endeavor. And then aprati labdha kama. So without any achievement, labdha, without getting anything, is achievement of a desired destination. Punaha asadya swadishna. He again came back and sat upon the lotus flower. And then he Deva, this original demigod, Shanahi, without delay, he saw like, okay, this is not a way to understand the Lord, right? But what is the way? And he says, Jita Swasaha, means he conquered his breathing, he controlled his breathing. Nivrita Chittaha, he actually retired his intelligence or controlled his mind. And Nyasidat Arudha Samadhi Yoga, and he actually engaged in Samadhi, right? So he came back on top of the lotus, he controlled his senses, his breathing, he controlled his mind, and then he absorbed himself in samadhi upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? So Prabhupada in this purport makes the point that samadhi means concentrating the mind upon the Supreme. Even if one is not aware, is the Supreme personal, impersonal? Is he Brahman? Is Paramatma? Is he Bhagwan? Even though one is not aware of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but just focusing on, yes, that is a Supreme, and I want to find out who that Supreme is, that is Samadhi, Prabhupada says. Right? So to cease from personal sense endeavors and to concentrate on the Supreme is the sign of self-surrender. So you have to give up all our personal endeavors. Okay, I can figure it out. I can understand the Lord. We give up all those tendencies and just say, Krishna, I cannot understand my source. I cannot understand who I am. I cannot understand who you are. I just surrender unto you. And Brahma has come to this point of surrendering unto Krishna. Okay. Next verse.
Kalena soja purushayushabhi pravritta yogena viruddha bodhaha swayam taranta hridayeva bhatam apashyata yanna purvam.
Translation: At the end of Brahma's 100 years, when his meditation was complete, he developed the required knowledge, and as a result, he could see in his heart the Supreme within himself, whom he could not see before with the greatest endeavor. Hare Krishna.
Kalena. Kala means time. So in due course of time. And how long did Brahma actually perform his meditation? Purusha Ayusha. The Ayusha, the age of a Purusha, referring to us. So Maitreya Rishi is actually saying the age of us, a human being, 100 years of the human lifespan, he actually performed. And how much was his how much time did he take previously for his contemplation to try to find out? Which was the word we read? How much time did he actually spend to try to figure it out?
Yuga?
Yeah,
One-
One millennium.
on one hand, he spent one entire yuga trying to understand, okay, who am I? What is my purpose? And then he put all his effort. He went down the lotus, he came back up, and still he could not figure out. So one hand, all his personal endeavor. And the other hand, as soon as he started to think about the Lord, just for 100 years, compare 100 years compared to 1 million years, right? Right? Just for 100 years. And then what happened? Here it says, Abhivritta Yogena, when he was engaged for 100 years in meditation, Viruddha Bodha, his intelligence actually Viruddha, it became actually developed. And Swayam Tah Antaridaya Ava Bhatat, the Lord which is manifested in the heart, he actually apashyata, he could actually see the Lord in the heart, and that same that he could not see earlier. With his whole personal endeavor, he could not see the Lord. But now he could actually see the Lord of the heart. So Prabhupada makes a point. Only through the process of devotional service can we actually see the Lord. Right? So the 100 years is not 100 years of Brahma. This 100 years is the 100 years of human beings, us living entities. Okay. Okay, so that is our next section up to text 22. Right? So let's see any comments, questions up to this point.
Before the Chatur Shloki, we read the same thing, right? Like he heard tapa and he did tapasya.
Yes. And before Shatushlaki also we hear similar. So that's a good point to say that how the knowledge that is coming to Brahma, that knowledge, our Sampradaya, is the same knowledge which is coming through Kumar Sampradaya. The knowledge is the same.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So I have a question, like it's a little difficult to understand, like Brahmaji did the tapasya, the meditation for 100 years, which is the calculation of human life.
Yes.
But when we see about the higher planets, the life is very 100 years for them. It's very small time, Prabhuji.
And that is the whole point of this. That as soon as he actually meditated on, okay, where is the Supreme? He gave up all his personal endeavor and said like, okay, I'm just going to meditate. And he sat in yoga, and for Brahmaji, it was immediately. It was 100 years of us, but for Brahma, it was immediate that he could actually see the Lord within. So the whole point of this, the real point is we have to give up our personal endeavors, and as soon as one turns towards Krishna, as soon as we say, okay, I have tried my best, I couldn't figure it out. But Krishna, you please help me. As soon as we do that, Krishna reciprocates.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, the word-to-word translation is saying by the duration of his age, and the translation, the first line is saying at the end of Brahma's 100 years.
No. Where is it? Which verse are you reading?
Text 22, Prabhuji. So the word-to-word translation is saying Purusha Ayusha by the duration of his age, And the translation is also saying at the end of Brahma's 100 years.
Hmm. Like it cannot be Brahma's 100 years, right? That's his entire lifespan. So how can in one day, starting of one day, how can 100 years be spent? So it is actually Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is clearly mentioning that this 100 years is actually when Maitreya Rishi was speaking to Vidura, he's saying 100 years of people in Kali Yuga. That is the lifespan. Because it doesn't make, how can it be 100 years of Brahma? That's the entire lifespan. And how can that entire lifespan be at the starting of the day of Brahma? So that's not possible. Right? So it is 100 years of human calculation. So that point is clear. There's no doubt about it. It cannot be 100 years of Brahma. To Pratna Mata's question, it was actually, for Brahma's time, it was just like a moment. He gave a personal endeavor as soon as he turned to Krishna with devotion. Like, how even in Bhagavad Gita, what do we read? Arjun, first chapter, he tried his best. He used his intelligence, he used his mind. He said, okay, I have to figure it out. But as soon as 2.7, he actually turned to Krishna. Then immediately what? Krishna smiled and started speaking to him. Immediately, right? So similarly here, as soon as Brahma turned, Krishna actually, he could see that, okay, here I am, right? And then further we'll read the next chapter, Brahma offers prayers, and then how Krishna actually reciprocates with those prayers. Okay.
Hare
So,
Krishna.
Prabhuji, I have one more question. So in this universe, Brahma has 4 heads. So when he started searching for the Lord around, so he had 1 head before, and then he got 4 heads. Is it?
Mm,
And as he started looking around, he got.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. And what's the question?
Yes, Prabhuji. So we have heard from the different universes, like Brahmaji had 100 heads, 1,000, and maybe 1 lakh heads, Prabhuji. So the same situation has happened that also, like when he started searching and then he got many heads like that.
So the point is like we are trying to understand one universe, our four-headed Brahma, right? And we do hear that other universes have, but also the point is actually said that finally who is giving these, who is creating Brahma? We say he's Swayam, he's born on his Atmabhu, right? He's actually Swayam born on his own, right? But who is finally his father? It is Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So based on the size of the universe, when it is said, just like it is more of like a poetic expression that, oh, he looked in four directions, he got 4 heads. But who is giving these 4 heads? It is actually Vishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu itself. And based on the size of the universe, then Brahma can have, instead of 4 heads, he could have 100 heads, 1,000 heads. But that is based on the size of the universe. And it is actually Vishnu who actually giving that form to Brahma, depending on how much work he has to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Guruji.
Hare Krishna, Coach. In the purport of text 21, it says, when self-surrender is present, that is a sure sign of devotional service. It is also similar to Draupadi, once she's surrendered, immediately the Lord reciprocated.
That's a good example. To cease from personal sense endeavor and to concentrate on the supreme cause is a sign of self-surrender. And when self-surrender is present, that's a sure sign of devotional service. Right? So that's why we make the point that we hear shlokas where it says once you take devotional service, very quickly one can attain the Lord. So here we see that point practically with Brahma's case. One side you have entire yuga, and other side this is just 100 years of a human calculation. Okay, thank you. Anything else in this section?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So the text 19, so it was saying like by one's personal endeavor, one may not go near to the Lord, but without the Lord's mercy, one cannot reach the Lord. But when He give the mercy, then He can reach. So I was thinking the example of a Damodar Leela, that Mother Yashoda was trying to bind Krishna with her endeavors, but until Lord sanctioned her desire, then Then only she was able to buy him. Thank
Nice. So yes, there is personal endeavor. Like we cannot deny the personal endeavor, but what is that personal endeavor engaged in? Like initially, Brahma was trying to do his personal endeavor through his own mental, like, okay, I will figure it out. And that was failing. But as soon as he did, so even his meditation was his personal endeavor, but that was in line of surrender. So as soon as there was personal endeavor with surrender, then Krishna reciprocates. So similarly, in Mother Yashoda, when we talk of two fingers too short, one is our personal endeavor, right? And other is Krishna's reciprocation. But that personal endeavor has to be in devotional service. And then Krishna reciprocates. Thank you, Mother. Nice example. Okay. Anything else? Anyone? Okay. So let's continue with text number 20. Yeah.
Vrinalaghorayata Sheshabhoga Varyanka Ekam Purusham Shayanam Anatapatrayutamurram Ratna Dyubhirhata Dvanta Yugantatoye. Maybe Vamshikopakam.
Hare Krishna. Brahma could see that on the water there was a gigantic lotus-like white bedshed, the body of Sesanaga, on which personality of Godhead was lying alone. The whole atmosphere was illuminated by the rays of the jewels bedecking the hood of Sesanaga, and that illumination dissipated all the darkness of those regions. Hare Krishna.
Hmm. So now the next few verses are all about description of the form that Brahmaji is seeing. Right? So this is the first one. It starts off with Mrinala. Mrinala means a lotus flower. And what is the color of the lotus flower? Gaura, white all over, right? So Brahma could see on the water, right? So he's seeing on the water, there was this gigantic lotus-like white bedstead, right? So what is the white bedstead? That is the body of Sheshanag or Ananta Shesha, right? And then after that, it says, so he's seeing, right, the Lord lying on the bed of Ananta Shesha, which is white. And then the whole atmosphere was illuminated by the rays of the jewels bedecking the hood of Sheshanag, and that illumination dissipated all the darkness of those regions. So it is actually the light which is actually coming from those jewels on top of Sheshanaga. That is creating so much light that all the darkness is going away. And then Brahma is actually seeing the Lord. So next, let's continue. 24.
Preksham Kripantam Haritopaladre Sandhya Pranive Rururukma Murnaha Ratno Dadharo Shadid Somanasya Vanasrajo Venu Bhujan Gripangrehe.
Hare Krishna. The luster of the transcendental body of the Lord mocked the beauty of the coral mountain. The coral mountain is very beautifully dressed by evening sky, but the yellow dress of the Lord mocked its beauty. There is gold on the summit of the mountain, but the Lord's helmet bedecked with jewels mocked it. Mountains, waterfalls, herbs, etc., with a panorama of flowers, seem like garlands, but the Lord's gigantic body and his hands and legs decorated with jewels, pearls, tulsi leaves, and flower garlands mark the scene on the mountain.
So what a beautiful comparison that Brahmaji is saying. He's saying, Preksham, this panoramic view. So he's seeing the Lord on Anantashesh, on the white like a lotus flower. And then he's saying this beauty, Shipantam. Shipantam means it derides. Derides what? And there are 6 comparisons in one verse. First point, he says, the luster of the body of the Lord, the transcendental body of the Lord, the beauty, the luster of the body, that actually derides the beauty of even a coral mountain. So it cannot be compared. You know, even if you consider most beautiful coral mountain, Right? We don't even know what is Coral Mountain. But even if you consider that the most beautiful mountain made of coral, right, the stone, then that mountain, it is that beauty is derided by the beauty of the luster of the Lord. Then, second comparison is that the evening sky, it looks very beautiful, but the yellow dress of the Lord, it actually shipantam, it derides even the evening sky. Second comparison. Third, it says, when you see a mountain, right, on top of the mountain, there may be gold, a gold on the summit of the mountain. But the Lord's helmet was bedecked with jewels that actually derided the gold on the top of the mountain. Third comparison. Fourth comparison. He says, well, on the mountain, there are waterfalls, there are herbs, right, and the flowers. We see all that. It looks very beautiful. But when you see the Lord's garland and his hands and legs, which are decorated with jewels, pearls, tulsi leaves, then that derides all this beauty on the mountain, the waterfalls, etc. And then arms. The arms of the Lord are so beautiful that it derides even the bamboos which are high on the mountain. And the feet of the Lord are so beautiful that it derides even the trees at the base of the mountain. So 6 comparisons Brahma is saying. So everything we see beautiful in this material world is only a perverted reflection of the beauty of the Lord. Right? People are so attracted to, let's go to so and so place and see the nature view. It looks so beautiful. Right? Looks so nice, but all that beauty is just a spark of the reflection of the beauty of the Lord. Right? So Brahma is actually seeing. And Prabhupada makes the point in purport. One attracted by the beauty of the Lord no longer will be attracted by the beauty of material nature. The Lord is so beautiful. Once you see, you can really get the darshan of the Lord, nothing in this world will seem attractive to you. Right? Hence we desire, when will I be eager to have one darshan of the Lord? Just once, if I see the Lord, then everything else, all our attachments, everything will go away. Okay, next verse. So in this verse, he's compared the Lord to a coral mountain with all the evening sky and the mountain summit, mountain waterfalls on the mountain, etc. Right? Okay, text 25.
Sorry, Prabhuji, how there are 6, Prabhuji? So first is the coral mountain, second is the evening sky, third is the gold on the summit of the mountain, and then fourth is the mountains, waterfalls, and herbs. And Prabhuji, what are the 5 and 6?
So 5 is the arms of the Lord are actually compared to bamboos on the mountain. I mean, compared in the sense like even the bamboos on the mountains, they actually shipantam, they deride, right? They are derided by the arms of the Lord. And the last one is trees at the base of the mountain, right? They actually are compared to the feet. So if you see a Sanskrit, you can see the last line where it says Bhuja Angripa and then Angrehe, right? So Angripa means trees and Angrehe means legs. So number 6 is the feet, and that is compared to what? The Angripa, the trees at the base of the mountain, right? And then before that, Bhujaha. The Bhujaha is actually compared to bamboo.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay. Next one, text 25.
Ayamato Vishtarata Sumana Dehena Lokatraya Sangrahena Vichitra Divya Varanam Shukanam Krita Shriya Pashrita Vesha Deham. His transcendental body, unlimited in length and breadth, occupied the 3 planetary systems, upper, middle, and lower. His body was self-illuminated by unparalleled dress and variegatedness and was properly ornamented.
Okay, so what is the dimension of the Lord? Ayamataha, the length, and Vistaraha, the breadth, Swamana, by his own measurement of the length and the breadth of the Lord. So we have no access to measure the length of the world. But the Lord himself, by his own measurement, then Dehena is a transcendental body, Lokatraya. It actually seems that this body, it occupied the 3 planetary systems. That is how vast the body was. Then further he says, this body was what? Vichitra Divya Abharana was decorated with variegated abharana. Abharana means ornaments. And what kind of ornaments? Was it like a gold and diamond of this material world? No, no. Ornaments which are divya. Divya means transcendental ornament. And then further it says, Sukanam Vesha Deham. He was actually dressed with his body was self-illuminated by unparalleled dress, right? Unparalleled dress. And then unparalleled dress and variegated ornaments. Okay. So okay. Prabhupada makes a very nice point towards the last sentence of purport. The beauty of material nature is due to his personal beauty. So whatever beauty we are seeing in this material world is just a reflection of the spark of the beauty of the Lord. Okay. Yet he is always magnificently dressed and ornamented to prove his transcendental variegatedness, which is so important in the advancement of spiritual knowledge. So what does this sentence mean? Anyone would like to share any thoughts on the sentence? That the Lord is always magnificently dressed and ornamented to prove his transcendental variegatedness, which is so important for our advancement of spiritual knowledge. Anyone wants to comment on this?
So that means that we understand that Krishna is a personality, and that is the higher knowledge in the progress of bhakti.
Okay, so that's one point. We understand Krishna as a personality. He has varieties. Okay.
Babaji, I was thinking that Krishna is Bhagwan, huh? He is full of all those 6 opulences. Huh?
Right. Okay. Okay, further. So if you see what Prabhupada is making the point, certainly the point of personality is there. He's certainly establishing that Krishna as a person. But beyond that, he's saying the Lord, he is. Actually, does the Lord need to be dressed with ornaments, with jewelry? No. It says Bhushana Bhushanangam. It is the Lord who actually beautifies his ornaments. Right? But still, the Lord, whenever we describe, we see the Lord is always described with nice ornaments and beautiful dress and flower garlands, etc. Why? Why is the Lord always described and Prabhupada? Yet he is always magnificently dressed and ornamented. Why? To prove his transcendental variegatedness. So, see, the point is, in this material world, we are distracted or we look for sense because there's so much variety. Right? And what the impersonalists say? Oh, because there's so much variety, hence we are distracted. So spirituality means no variety. Right? This is spirituality means no variety. We have to give up all the variety. Yet again and again, Srimad Bhagavatam is saying, whenever the Lord is described, that is transcendental variegatedness. Right? And further, Prabhupada makes a point, which is so important in the advancement of transcendental knowledge. That means what? We are attracted to the variegatedness of this material world, the variety in this material world. How do we get out of this? Not by negating it to zero, but by getting attracted to the transcendental variety of the Lord. So when these verses, this form is actually described about the Lord, we meditate on, oh, the Lord is so beautiful. He has this shark-shaped earring. He has this beauty. And just by meditating on that beauty of the Lord, we'll become attracted to the Lord. And by that, we can actually make advancement in our spiritual life. So getting attracted to the beauty of the Lord, right? So there are 2 aspects of our philosophy. One is to make the point that how material happiness is very insignificant. The other point is, okay, we have to be convinced that, oh yeah, nothing in the material world. But we have to at the same time be attracted to the variegatedness in the beauty of the Lord. And by that attraction, we can actually progress in our spiritual life. So such a nice point, Prabhupada. Just in a one sentence, there is so much purport to actually explain on this point about personality, and beyond that, how we can progress in our spiritual life. We have to be attracted to the variety, the variegatedness in the form of the Lord. Okay, text 26.
Pumsam swakamaya viviktamargair abhyarchatam kama dughan gripadmam pradarshayantam kripayana kendu mayukabhinan gulicharupatram.
The Lord showed his lotus feet by raising them. His lotus feet are the source of all awards achieved by devotional service from material contamination. Such awards are for those who worship him in pure devotion. The splendor of the transcendental rays from his moon-like toenails and fingernails appeared like the petals of flowers. Thank you.
So it says Pumsam Swakamaya. So the living Kamaya means desire. When we talk of the desire of the Pumsam, of the living entity, Vivikta Margahi. So the lotus feet of the Lord are described as was Kama Dugha Angripada. So one word is Pumsam Swakamaya. So all the living entities have Kama, desires. And who can fulfill those desires? Kama Dugdha Angripada. All those desires can be actually fulfilled from the lotus feet of the Lord. But how? People may have so many material desires. Does the lotus feet of the Lord fulfill all those desires? No. Unless one actually Vivikta Margai. This word Vivikta Margai is actually explained by Srila Prabhupada and Acharya as Vishnu, and Vishwanath Chakri Thakur, as those who are actually approaching the lotus feet of the Lord with pure devotional service. Vivikta Margai means the devotional service which is not tinged with Gyan and Karma. That kind of devotional service. So if someone is worshipping Abhyar Chatam, someone is worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord, which is the fulfiller of all desired fruits, then if he's actually worshipping the Lord with pure devotional service, then all the desires of the human beings can be fulfilled. Right? So, which was the section we actually read, which was glorifying the lotus feet of the Lord? Recently, we read an entire section of the glories of the lotus feet of the Lord.
It's the demigods, right? We're praying.
Yes, when the demigods, when in the aspect of creation, right? The demigods, when they offer their prayers, all their prayers are focusing on the lotus feet of the Lord. And they actually said how the lotus feet of the Lord is like the umbrella which is protecting us from all miseries, right? It's the umbrella that protects us from all miseries. And they've said how the lotus feet, meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord will give one full knowledge. It will vanquish all our sinful reactions. It actually awards remembrance, courage, knowledge, detachment. All this is from the lotus feet of the Lord, right? So we read this in the previous, just few chapters before, the prayers of the demigods to Karnadaksha Vishnu. Right? Okay, so that's the first part of the verse. Then second part is Pradarshayantam Kripaya. What did the Lord do? Brahmaji is looking at the Lord. And what does the Lord do? Pradarshayantam. He actually raised one of his feet out of his kripa. So that Brahmaji could really have the darshan of the Lord. He raised one of his feet out of kripa. And Nakha Indu. What did Brahma then see? Nakha Indu Mayukha. His nails, right? His nails and uh, his toes, right? He saw his nails and his toes, but the nails are described like what? They are like the moon-like rays, and the toes are described as what? Charupatram. So nails are described like the moon-like rays, and the toes are described as on lotus petals. So when he saw the lotus feet of the Lord, then he's seeing each toe as a beautiful lotus petal, and on that lotus petal, there is like a moon-like ray. You know? And that's the description of how Brahma is meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, this is so astonishing. Why? Because lotus, they actually bloom when there's sunshine. But here, it seems that the petals of the lotus are blooming when there is what? Moonshine. Right? When there is moonshine. So he made it. So beautiful description of the lotus feet of the Lord. Right? So the first aspect of the verse is saying that how the lotus feet of the Lord is Kama Dugdha Angri Pada. Lotus feet of the Lord awards all desired results for those who actually turn to the Lord with what? Vivikta Margahi, who worship the Lord with pure devotional service, free from karma and jnana. And it is these lotus feet to actually get Brahma to get a full darshan. The Lord raised one of his lotus feet, and then Brahmaji is seeing that each toe is like a lotus petal on which there's moonlight rays, which is a nail. Right? A very nice description. Okay, so we'll stop here. Okay, so let's stop here. Any comments, questions, realizations? So this chapter is, we have almost come to the end of this chapter. And basically the last few verses are just continuing on the beauty of the Lord. And that's also Prabhupada doesn't give very elaborate purpose to these verses. So we can quickly complete the last few verses and move on to the next chapter. Next chapter actually very beautiful chapter because we see the prayers of Brahma and how the Lord actually reciprocates with Brahma's prayers. So very nice prayers of Brahmaji will read in the next chapter. Okay. Any comments, realizations, questions?
Which I like that the Supreme Lord can only be experienced through the process of devotional service and only by His mercy.
That's the key, right? That's the whole key to our success. Just somehow or other engage in devotional service and wait. When will the Lord actually shower His mercy upon me? Okay. Okay. Anything else?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So for this last verse, I was just thinking like the Brahmaji is getting the chance to see the lotus feet of the Lord. Like he got the opportunity when Vamandev also tried to pierce the upper planetary system. That time he got the opportunity and he could bathe the lotus feet of the Lord.
Yes.
Thanks.
Very nice, Madhuri. Thank you so much. Yeah, we read in that Vamana Dev when he actually expands his feet so big. The Lord got, Brahmaji got the darshan. And they bathed the lotus feet of the Lord, right? It's described in Bhagavatam and that one. So nice.
Yes, Prabhuji, that's how the Ganges
Yes.
appeared in this material world.
Thank you very much. Anything else? Any other points?
Prabhuji, I was thinking about how Lord is so merciful. He doesn't have to dress up, but for us, attraction is always to something variety. So he's dressing up for us to get attracted to his form and not go to the other material illusions. It's just like, wow, he dresses up for us.
That's a very nice meditation. Yes. Further in this verses, in the rest of the chapter, we'll read more about the appearance of the Lord, the Srivatsa, like Kostuba jewel, all that will come in the next few verses. Very nice.
Yes. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Yeah, it's a very interesting. I mean, Brahmaji, he also like bewilder, and he is looking for everywhere, everywhere. He has like forehead. When he could not find, and I mean, he is looking everywhere, but he could not find what is the lotus and who am I and all this. So it's very, very interesting. And so I'm thinking that how come we are like, I'm like tiny, tiny jiva. So it's very, very hard to understand Lord, but the mercy of the Lord and reading Srimad Bhagavatam and blessings like from you and all the devotees. So I can understand. Hare Krishna.
Nice point, Madhu. Yeah. Even Brahma, with all his effort, with 4 heads, he cannot figure out the glories of the Lord.
Yes.
So, what is the hope for us? We are so insignificant jiva. So, we are
Yeah.
dependent on the mercy of Vaishnavas, Guru, and Krishna. And by their mercy, how much ever we can please them, they reciprocate and they will reveal themselves. That's our hope. Right? We
Yes.
try to speculate and try to understand the Lord. Nice. Very nice. Thank you.
Prabhuji, the intelligent man should ask, who am I and what is the source?
Yes. I mean, the curiosity is there in everyone. Everyone wants to know, where did I come from? What is my source? Why am I subjected to all these miseries? The question is there. But right now we are so busy, we're trying to find some nice food, nice shelter, which satisfy our senses, that the question is kind of there, but it is covered by all these things. But
Yeah,
as
like Athato Brahma Jignasa, everyone has to be.
yes, so the question, that curiosity is there, but it is covered. That's why people who naturally progress more towards mode of goodness, giving up that mode of passion and ignorance, then they are in a state where they can actually ask these questions. They can ask this question, ask like deeper question. Who am I? Where have I come from? Yeah. Thank you.
I also like the point that we need to make personal endeavor, but even that personal endeavor should be in bhakti. It shouldn't be because we're trying to figure it out ourselves, but it should be in the mood of surrender. Like, I'll do this in the mood of surrender to Krishna.
I was thinking of this point that, that maybe we are struggling with some bad habits which are distracting us from bhakti, right? And normally our mood is, okay, we will try to fight it out, right? Okay, from tomorrow, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. Okay, keep this phone away, keep this away, or whatever we do, like keep everything away, right? We do all this, and then what happens? Then gradually we tend to go back to the same thing, right? So I was thinking that yes, we are trying to do our effort, but are we connecting that effort with Krishna? No? Because as soon as, like, let's say, yes, we have to keep, Krishna actually talks about that. He says in the 3rd chapter, yes, first of all, regulate your senses. So keep it away, right? But are we doing that with an offering, with a connection to Krishna? We're saying, Krishna, this habit is really troubling me. Oh, Krishna, for your sake, I want to come closer to you. I want to give up this habit. And for that, oh my Lord, from tomorrow, I'm going to keep this away, or I'm going to keep it. So as soon as we combine it with that prayer, then immediately that becomes in line of devotional service. Mhm. But otherwise, if we are just personally, then we tend to do it again. We tend to redo it. But if we are actually connecting, we start that entire thing. Like, Krishna, please, you please help me. I cannot overcome Maya. Maya is too strong. But if you kindly help me, Krishna, then you can take away this influence of Maya. So even our aspect of like overcoming bad habits, we have to do our part, but do that in that mood of prayer, in the mood of connecting with Krishna. Then our efforts will be successful. Okay.
Prabhuji,
Yeah.
one question, Prabhuji, like, can we pray to Maya, please, don't trouble me too much?
Yes, we can approach Maya. We can say, Maya Devi, you yourself are a devotee of Krishna. So we approach Maya Devi as a Vaishnavi. How we pray to devotees. Oh, devotee, we pray, oh, Prabhu Mata, you please pray for me. So we approach Maya Devi not as someone who is actually, taking us away from Krishna. We pray, Maya Devi, you are such an exalted devotee of the Lord. And as soon as we are actually drawing the connection of Maya Devi with Krishna, that you are a devotee of the Lord, that already shows that we are on the right path. That's already drawing that connection that you are approaching Maya Devi as a devotee. And you can say, Maya Devi, I really want to progress in my spiritual life. You are such a elevated Vaishnavi. So you bless me in such a way that I can come closer to Krishna. So yes, that way we can approach Maya Devi in that way. So we don't see Maya Devi as, oh, Maya Devi is so bad, it's demon. No, no, no. She's a Vaishnavi, right? She's a Vaishnavi. So having that right approach, the approach in connection with Krishna. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so stop here. So thank you so much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vanchakalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubheva cha patinanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, thank you so much for joining. Hare Krishna.
Thanks so much. Hare Krishna. And pranam to all the devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you for joining. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Prabhuji, it is said that we can't see Krishna, but we can see Krishna by his mercy. Huh? So whatever words you speak, Prabhuji, I feel that this is Krishna's mercy directly coming from your mouth. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for joining. Hare Krishna.